here we are, Artsy Fartsy. I am the Great Goonan, and this is Mr. Don Sill.
Hello, everyone.
And we're going to talk about the 1980 movie Midnight Madness, directed by Michael Nankin, and starring a great bunch of some of the greatest character actors of all time, not just David Naughton, not just Stephen Furst and Eddie Deezen, but the great John Fiedler, the great Irene Tedrow, even Paul Reubens in a very early incarnation of Pee Wee Herman, and a great bunch of cats. And in the time nowadays when every comedian is trying to have a social cause and jump on their soapbox, and everybody's trying to have a point of view and crusade for a cause, this is just a silly, lighthearted movie. And because of that, I think it still holds up. I think it's a classic. I do.
I think it's a classic too. I kind of grew up with this. It was one of the first shows I remember seeing when we got cable, and whether it was Showtime, HBO, whichever, and it was on all the time, and I loved it. And it was before Michael J. Fox was like a household name.
Well, I didn't say that. I didn't say that yet. It is the feature film debut of Michael J. Fox. He's very young here, and I have to do this right now before we start, Don. I have to get this out of my system. Come see how fun a night can be. Are you ready for a brand new game? A brand new, come take a chance and play with me. And you're never gonna be the same when Midnight Madness starts to get to you. Doesn't matter what you say. Doesn't matter what you do, you gotta play. Just when you think you've had your fun and you're ready to say goodnight, don't say goodnight. You'll find your fun has just begun, 'cause the game's gonna last all night when Midnight Madness starts to get to you. Doesn't matter what you say, doesn't matter what you do, you gotta play. All right, that's enough. I had to get that.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
That was awesome. It's awesome you remember the words.
Oh, I have that in my head forever. Forever. So,
that was great.
So let's talk about this movie a little bit. This is a movie from 1980, but it really is a 70s movie. It's 70s in style. A great conceit that you find in the old college movies where they have cliques like high school, where college is a lot more like high school, where there's the jocks and the nerds and stuff like that, and they're all trying to get along or fighting each other, which is very much high school. It's not really what goes on in college. So the plot of this story, and I don't know if it's UCLA, but it's some sort of Los Angeles college, where all of a sudden these different groups in the college are given this notice by these hot chicks who are on roller skates, who come by, and they give these different notes to meet at a certain place at a certain time. Now these groups consist of what will turn out to be the yellow team, which is run by David Naughton, who's also very famous for being in American Werewolf in London, but he's basically the hero of the movie. David Naughton is kind of like a guidance counselor in college, which I didn't even know there were guidance counselors in college. The red team are like the feminist women from the sorority. They're feminist women. They want rights for women and stuff like that. Then there's the green team. The green team are the jocks, the football guys, and they always say M-E-A-T, meat machine, meat machine. And there's a bunch of great jocks in it, especially Dirk Blocker is the favorite, is Blaylock in that. And then, of course, there's the white team, which are the nerds, and they are the nerdiest. They are the nerdiest nerds with the glasses. The great Eddie Deezen is the nerd there, who's one of the most recognizable character actors of that era. His face, his voice, he's just brilliant. I think this is probably his best part ever, in my opinion.
He might be the most famous nerd ever, too, because he's always a nerd.
And oddly enough, not in the Revenge of the Nerds movies. But
I know, he got robbed.
He got robbed! There's also another group, the Blue Group, which is run by the spoiled rich kid, Stephen Furst, who has all these funny, goofy, hangers-on yes men with him, and he's like a real spoiled brat. And I think this is Stephen Furst's best role. This is my favorite Stephen Furst role. One of my favorite scenes is probably not allowed anymore, when he harasses the the Spanish maid. Stephen Furst's character's name Harold. Harold, and he's always eating Skittles or M&Ms out of what looks like one of those standing ashtrays they used to have in funeral homes. And he decides for no reason at all to harass the Spanish maid. He throws the Skittles on the floor. He's like, accidento, cleany uppo.
He's such a dick.
He's a dick. But Stephen Furst plays a dick better than anybody. Like whenever Harold, the Stephen Furst character, shows up, it's rum ba dum ba da 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 dum. Like he has his own theme and everything like that, almost like a cartoon villain and stuff like that. So they all go right off campus to this house, and they see this projector screen, games, and how you have to compete. And when the projector film is done, it opens up, and this guy who comes out looking like a hippie, or what we would call a hipster now, with crazy hair and glasses, pops out.
Time to meet the person who has made all of this possible. Leon! Please, hold your applause.
Played by a fella who I've never heard of before or since. I don't know much about. His name is Alan Solomon. And he's Leon. Now they all know him, so they all show up. They all know Leon. Leon says, "You're gonna be part of our this game called the Great All-Nighter, which is basically a scavenger hunt game where they're gonna find clues throughout Los Angeles. It's gonna start at sundown and it's gonna end when they finally get all the clues and find them at the finish line. And the winner gets a trophy, but also the satisfaction of knowing that they're better than the other people." My favorite thing is that how could Leon, when in the beginning when he's giving out the envelopes, he gives a yellow envelope to what turns out to be the yellow team. He gives a blue envelope to what turns out to be the blue team. Green to green, red to red. How does he know that their vehicles are going to be that color?
I know. That's true. I forgot about that. They all drive that color vehicle.
Right. So the blue team, Harold gets the state of the art, because all his spoiled rich kid money can buys basically a Chevy van with with the greatest thing inside the van is this computer, which by nowadays it would be considered like a crappy little computer, but it was state of the art. And it solves, the thing is that it solves any clue. You type in any clue and it solves it. So he's already
before Google. Yeah.
He's already preparing to cheat. He wants to cheat to make sure he wins. The green team, the jocks, they ride in like a Volkswagen Beetle, convertible Beetle, called Meat Machine on the side.
Yeah.
The red team, the feminist women, they drive a red pickup truck. Maggie Roswell is the head of the red team, but then she has like a short-haired, sort of butchy girl. And then Peggy and Lulu, the two fat chicks.
The two fat ones. Who
are there all the time, and they just kind of go, Eddie Deezen and the nerds are the white team, and they drive a bunch of white mopeds.
It's worth watching the movie just to see them.
And David Naughton's team, they drive Marvin's yellow Jeep. Okay, so they're all ready to go on the Great All-Nighter. Very exciting. This movie, by the way, just the plot and the scavenger hunt and everything like that is worth it too, because I think the scavenger hunt and the clues and following along with the game is actually a lot of fun too.
Yeah. Yeah, the whole thing is cool. The scavenger hunt vibe, the kind of precursor to The Amazing Race, I think.
Well, not only that, apparently this movie, because of the popularity, a lot of kids grew up with it like us, has spawned scavenger hunts like for Rutgers University. In San Francisco, they have a scavenger hunt thing called the Great All-Nighter, I think it's called. So it's all,
oh, wow.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's run by Leon, but I don't know. So
Leon has something to do with it, I'm sure.
So they all get sweaters to correspond with the color of their team and apparently the color of their vehicles, and they set out with the first clue that Leon gives them, and they're supposed to find out where to go next. Now, I'm not gonna give away the entire plot of this story because I think people, if they haven't seen it, should watch this and know what goes on. But I'm going to give you the first clue because I always love this first clue. Do you remember the first clue?
No, tell me again. I forgot.
Okay, so they open up and the first clue is the C is reversed. SS Atari is mixed up and blind. And then it has a bunch of numbers. So they have to figure out what, and the C is in quotes, the C is reversed. SS Atari is mixed up and blind. So they all drive off and they're all trying to figure out what the hell's going to happen. Except Harold, Stephen Furst. He's just hanging out in his van. So I guess we might as well get going. And they're like, come on, Harold, we want to win. He's like, okay. So he puts the clue into his computer.
He's like, I have Google.
Remember, I forgot to point out, before he begins doing that, he's playing Pong on the computer.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And they're like, come on, Harold. He's like, all right, let's go. Puts in the clue. They understand what it is already. It turns out that they all figure out that the C is reversed means the C should be see the. So the C is reversed. SS Atari is mixed up and blind. SS Atari is mixed up words. If it's blind, it means you take out the I's. It becomes the stars. See the stars. Turns out that see the stars means go to the observatory. And the numbers on the letter correspond with what you should set the telescope up for. Well, Harold already knows that because Harold cheated and he wrote his things in the computer and he's already there. There's also a subplot going on that his girlfriend doesn't want him to eat, but he cannot go through the night without snacking all the time. So he starts eating privately in the van. He's shoving marshmallows into his mouth and everything. And then his girlfriend pops up in the van. Harold, are you eating? She's like, are you sure?
And she buys into it.
Remember now, this is the greatest part. He lifts up the computer, which I didn't even know you could do, and puts the marshmallows in the computer. That's where he decides to hide them. So,
and then messes up his whole Google computer system.
Well, that's what happens, right? That's what happens. This puts an end to his cheating. This puts an end to his computer because the next time he tries to do a clue, he goes, why won't it send? Why won't it send? He goes, he opens up the computer, melted marshmallow everywhere. Oh. So
it's what you get for eating. It's what he gets.
It's what you get for being a fatso.
Yeah, he deserved it. And he's a cheater. He's a cheating fatso.
There's this other subplot going on that Leon, who's running the game, is running the game central at his little apartment with candy and sunshine. And he has CB radios going and he has a big map lit up on the wall with little figurines of the vehicles as they go to each place. How did he have figurines made? How did he know these were the vehicles they were going to be driving? This man's a genius.
Leon is a genius. Leon is the man.
Now, eventually, the landlady who runs who's the landlady for his apartment, doesn't like the noise that he keeps making. And this is the great Irene Tedrow, the great actress. She plays Mrs. Grimhouse. What a great name for a landlord. As the night goes on, he's monitoring because every time a team gets to a certain spot, they have to call in and tell Leon, I made it to this spot, I made it to that spot. So at one point, the neighbors start coming in, complaining. The other neighbors in the apartment building start complaining because all they're hearing is CB radios going off and phones ringing and things because it's Game Central. And the great John Fiedler's in it. John Fiedler, who was even in the original Odd Couple with Matthau and Lemon. Great character actor. He comes in. Leon,
yeah, he's great.
Leon, what are you doing here? We're getting all this noise. And he goes, what are you doing with this game? He starts to explain the game to him. They start to get interested and they hang out. Now they're in their pajamas. It's nighttime. Now they're sitting down eating potato chips, drinking, ordering pizza, watching the game in Game Central with Leon. Then other neighbors come in. They go, what are you doing, Leon? Hey. And they, what are you guys doing here? We're watching this game. They all start piling in, watching the game, and they start to like it. So
it becomes a party.
It becomes a party. So in the course of this whole time, they go from clue to clue to clue. Along the way, the yellow team with David Naughton happens to see, while they're driving by a kid waiting at a bus stop. It's young Michael J. Fox, who is David Naughton's brother. And he goes, that's my brother. He goes, what are you doing? It's like, you stay with us. We got to. So he reluctantly comes along, Scott. And Michael J. Fox is very young there and looks all the brattiness he could possibly, be. Doesn't look like he's related to David Naughton at all. But they go to the Pabst Blue Ribbon Brewery like all the other teams are going to the Pabst Blue Ribbon Brewery. Blaylock and the green team, Dirk Blocker, he's walking through the Pabst Blue Ribbon Brewery and sees a big vat of beer, and he's like, I need it! And he jumps into the vat. They're like, the green team's like, Blaylock! And he just falls in all happy. When he finally gets out, this is later on, you see a big vat. The thing opens up, and he comes out. He drank the whole vat. And he's like, ha, ha, ha! Take him. The green team takes him out, and he's like, this is the greatest night of my whole life.
Yeah. That was great. That always made me want to try Pabst Blue Ribbon. I was a kid when I saw it, and I saw how much they loved it. And then later on, I found out that PBRs are like the cheap beer, but I still like it. But maybe not as much as those guys. I don't know if I'd jump into that.
You don't like it as much as Blaylock? So now it's pointed out that they need to go to, I think this is the one that says they need to go to the video game. So they go to the video game store, the arcade, and they play the Starfighter game, which was a real game at the time, but had to be changed into a stand console because it's one of those sitting consoles in real life. It's one of these tidbits I looked up. So nice. when they get there, they have to ask for change by the guy who's running the arcade, and it's Paul Reubens in a very early incarnation of Pee Wee Herman. And he gives his change in a gun. He points it at the dude, at Marvin. He's like, I scared you, didn't I? Well, they can't beat that game. The yellow team, David Naughton, he doesn't know how to play it. But who does? Michael J. Fox. Michael J. Fox knows how to play the game. He agrees to play the game. He wins the game. They find out where the finish line is. But his brother doesn't give him the credit. And so he's pissed off. So as they're driving away and they get to a stop sign or a red light, Michael J. Fox runs out of the Jeep and runs away. The nerds and the jocks and the feminist girls are all they all got the clues, but they're all trying to get out and go to the finish line. They're all trying to stop each other from getting out of the arcade. So there's a big fight where they're throwing all the prizes that you win from the arcade. And I think Pee Wee Herman's like, oh, and he hides, And if you remember, since the jocks hate the feminist girls and they hate the nerds, what happens is the jocks destroy the feminist pickup truck. So the nerds and the feminist girls team up.
Oh, that's right.
and the feminist girl and Eddie Deezen hook up.
Excuse me, but there may be a logical solution here. If our team and their team were to make a deal. Never! Yeah, they make a smaller moped, but it's nothing like having one of these mean machines between your legs.
So the blue team cannot figure out what to do. They don't have the computer to cheat. Michael J. Fox finds them, and sort of now that he's mad at his brother, he goes, I know where the finish line is. I could tell you where it is. So he gets into the car, tells him where the finish line is, and then Stephen Furst throws him out of the car. In the meantime, David Naughton has changed his mind. He reunites with the team. They're going to find Michael J. Fox. They find him. They decide there's still time to go to the finish line. They all go to the finish line. Now all the teams are making it to the finish line, which is at the Bonaventure Hotel, back at Leon's place. Mrs. Grimhouse comes in, and she's like, she brings the cops. And she's like, I told you if there was one more complaint, I'm going to have you guys evicted. Points to all the people who are there, all the other neighbors who are sitting in the apartment, goes, look, there's the complaints. Goes, but wait a minute. Is anybody complaining? They're all eating potatoes. No complaining. She's pissed off. The cop is like, hey, the cop's like, hey, that's one of those old CB radios, you guys. Like, yeah, that's great. That's right. Yeah. The cop's like it too. The cop is not going to arrest him and gets pissed at Mrs. Grimhouse and arrests Mrs. Grimhouse. So Mrs. Grimhouse is now arrested in handcuffs, but the cops are not going to take her to the station. They want to see how the game ends. They go to the hotel. They go to the hotel. They want to see how the game ends. So they all go to the hotel. They all have to figure out what the final solution is. There's a big thing where Mrs. Grimhouse gets free and calls the security on them. So the security's after them. They go up into the elevator. Stephen Furst stops the elevator when the yellow team's in the elevator trying to get up to the penthouse, which is the finish line, and they have to open up they have to unlock the stopped elevator using Michael J. Fox's retainer. I don't know how you do that. I don't know how you're able. Yeah, I don't know how you're able to do that, but okay, whatever. Suspend some disbelief. In the end, everything is good again. Harold sees a whole buffet at the end, starts eating the whole buffet. His girlfriend tries to stop him, and finally he's had enough of his girlfriend. He throws her into the fountain. And that's the basic plot. I left some things out because I don't want to give everything away. That is to me, not only one of my favorite movies growing up, I think it deserves to be put as one of the comedy classics. I think it's definitely one of the best comedies of the 80s. Like I said, it's clean. A lot of the 80s comedies that happen afterwards are very dirty, like Porky's and Revenge of the Nerds. This one's clean. It's still funny. I think it has, out of all of those movies, it has the better bunch of character actors in it from different generations, like John Fiedler and Irene Tedrow, to Eddie Deezen and Stephen Furst, and it has the debut of Michael J. Fox. It has Paul Reubens as Pee Wee Herman. A lot of other great character actors, great scenes, great quotable lines in it. I think it's one of the classics.
I agree totally. For me, it's definitely a classic for the 80s. For scavenger hunt films, it kind of reinvented it. It was kind of like the Cannonball Run, meets It's a Mad, Mad World. It's fast paced. It's fun. It's funny. That there's tons of quotable lines from this movie.
Tiger beefy?
No, Harold, there aren't any cookies left.
What I want to know is, what does Leon mean by 2 giant melons?
Please, sir, won't you reconsider and accept our literature? It is said, he who does not
I
read...
said, leave me alone, Kojak! Poor Harold, have a cow, why don't you?
Hey, look, it's a picture of Leon.
That faggot beefy line was something to me, my brother, my cousin said for years and years and years. And it was before, obviously, the internet. So I didn't know that everybody took that line. I thought it was like only our thing, But everybody who knows that movie, the first thing they say is faggot beefy. Faggot beefy. Faggot beefy. Easter bunny. Easter parade. Yeah. But all in all, I think it's a great film, a classic. I think more people should know it. It definitely fits the artsy fartsy bill perfectly.
I would say this movie. Now look, with Artsy Fartsy, you don't want it to be too artsy, because then it's too, pinky in the air, too nose in the air. You don't want it to be too fartsy, because then it's the best compliment I could give this movie is it's right artsy and fartsy even. It satisfies the intellect, and it is fun. And it, like I said, because it doesn't have a message, because it's a lighthearted, fun movie about essentially decent people. Even the bad people are sort of cartoony, evil people. They're not like really bad people, not murderers or anything like that.
Right. Yeah.
They're, because of that, I think it still lasts, and it's timeless, and it can be accessible to any age or any era. Let me say, everybody should see it. If they haven't seen it, you're going to thank me. And if you don't like it, then you don't like ice cream. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you don't like good things. You don't like happiness. It's one of the best ones.
It is that kind of movie where you can't watch it and not have fun. You can't not smile. If you do, like you said, you have no soul, and you don't like ice cream or sprinkles.
And you don't like ice cream or sprinkles. So that's what I would say. I would say this is a good edition of Artsy Fartsy. Wouldn't you say, Don?
Yes, indeed. This is a great addition to the Artsy Fartsy family, and a great film. And everyone should go see Midnight Madness.
When Midnight Madness starts to get to you, doesn't matter what you say, doesn't matter what you do. Whoa, whoa, whoa! Okay, that's it. There we go.
You're sick in the head.